Hello there, I'm Black Bright News, and I'm not quite sure how many of you have heard, but UK Reform are planning to abolish the indefinite leave to remain. I'm going to read my notes because I don't really have much time to say all that I want to say, and then I'll put my little 2p worth in at the end. I'm suffering from bronchitis, I think, or a chest infection, so my voice isn't very loud. So, UK Reform leader Nigel Farage, and that's this. Source is BBC News. Is threatening to abolish indefinite leave to remain if he's elected. ILR was formalised and used in the UK immigration law with the Immigration Act 1971, introducing a similar concept to the right of abode, which means you're entitled to legally live in the country and work in the country. Right to abode applied to most of the Windrushians, those people who came in the Windrush from the Commonwealth to work in the UK after World War II, and gave them unlimited right to enter and live in the UK. Indefinite leave to remain replaced right of abode, and the criteria to qualify for ILR, which is indefinite leave to remain, has changed over the years, both in terms of use and meaning. Currently, it allows individuals with certain visas or by meeting specific residency requirements to remain in the UK without limits. 1973 became the informal cut-off point, but it still forms part of the immigration system, with no one monitoring why this was. That's what it appears. So even though there appears to be no legal requirement for migrants to be granted leave to remain after a certain period, currently migrants become eligible to apply for leave to remain after 5 years. However, this is going to be extended to 10 years for most routes, but we do not know if this means those who are currently on the 5-year route will not be allowed to proceed to the 10-year route, or those on the 10-year route will have their visa route abolished. That we don't know. It's still up in arms. If this is the case, thousands of migrants would lose their permanent status and face annual visa applications, potentially higher costs, and increased English language requirements to stay in the country. It would make UK less attractive destination for international talent, but since the Reform UK doesn't want foreigners here anyway, there's no love loss. Those currently with the indefinite leave to remain could find themselves applying for new temporary visas every few years and will forever be on tenterhooks, fearing deportation if they cannot meet the new, tougher requirements for temporary visas. The renewal process will of course become more stringent and more costly under the Reform UK. Those on ILR will have reduced rights and access to NHS, so it will look like they will need to apply for British citizenship pretty quickly, at least before Reform UK gets in, if they do get in. I would imagine that this will create a lot of stress and instability. It's less appealing. England will become a less appealing place to work and live, which is ultimately what the government want. What will happen to those who have been in the UK for many years and are on the path to settlement? And that's what I'm wondering. Those people who have been here for 5 years, who've followed the rules, who've paid all the visa fees over the 5 years, which can come up to tens of thousands in some cases, depending on how large your family is. They've got a home, they've got a mortgage, they've got a family, and then all of a sudden the rug has been pulled from underneath their feet. Now they think there might be somebody who's done maybe say 6 months to go before the 5 years are up. What will happen to those people? Will they be told, no, you're not eligible, it's been abolished now, therefore you now have to apply every year or every 3 years or whatever the criteria will be? What will happen to those who were moved from the 5-year route onto the 10-year route? I don't think that's happened yet, but what will happen in that case? Thing is that it's fine kind of saying, yeah, we're going to stop the path to permanent residency. Nobody will be able to become a British citizen anymore. But what that means is a lot of people will become illegal citizens, in the sense that before they were legal because they had a path to settlement. But if you are on a permanent temporary visa, that means the slightest little thing you do, you can be deported. It means that there's no security. It means that you cannot plan. People can only plan if they are legally in the country. Now, what does Nigel Farage say? This came out on the 22nd of September, which is a couple of days ago. Actually, it was just yesterday. Reform UK has announced it would abolish the rights of migrants to qualify for permanent settlement in the UK after 5 years if the party wins the election next year. Under the plans, migrants would need to reapply for new visas and tougher rules, and reform would abolish indefinite leave to remain, which gives people rights and access to benefits. And it only gives them rights and access to benefits because they've been paying the immigration health surcharge. It's not like they are entitled to get benefits like we are. They're entitled to use the NHS. They make it seem that way, but that is not the way it is. They actually have to pay a fee. I think it's about £700 a year to use the NHS. But they make it look like these are the people who are sponging off of benefits, those people on ILR. Those people on ILR are the most legitimate people because they are the ones that are going through the process. They're the ones that are paying the fees. Those are not the ones you need to be worried about. You need to be worried about the ones that are coming in on boats, or the ones, I can't even say the ones who are coming in on boats because technically they're not illegal. But it's the ones who've overstayed then. Let me put it that way. Those who have overstayed and those who've come on student visas and haven't gone back, those who've had work permits and they've overstayed on the work permits, let's say call them the overstayers. So under the plans, migrants would need to reapply for new visas with tougher rules, and reform would abolish indefinite leave to remain, which gives people rights and access to benefits. Reform have also said it plans to bar anyone other than British citizens from accessing welfare. And the funny thing is that what they're saying now is that if you're on indefinite leave to remain, which gave you a legal right to be in the country, you still won't be able to apply for benefits. And I'm not talking about illegal people. Reform has also said it plans to bar anyone other than British citizens from accessing welfare. The party claims their plans would save $234 billion over several decades. I wonder how many decades it's going to take for them to save that much, and how much they're going to lose in the process, because I tell you something, the country has been benefiting from all those thousands and thousands of indefinite leave and leave to remain fees for families and dependents and goodness knows what. They have been raking in billions. So now, if they're not going to do that anymore, they're not going to have that income. It's beyond me, because they're not looking at the right people to punish, so to speak, because they're punishing those who are legitimate. So Chancellor Rachel Reeves said the suggested savings have no basis in reality, and the government were already looking at restricting migrants' welfare access. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage said the UK should not be the world's food bank. I don't think it is. Look how many people are on the street. Why don't they worry about the people who are on the street? Their own people who are on the street and are homeless. Launching the new policies, Farage said, it is not for us to provide welfare for people coming in from all over the world. They make it look like it's possible for them to claim welfare. It's not possible. They come over on, they have to sign and say no recourse to public funds. They don't have access to public funds. Anyway, that's all for now. Bye-bye.